So welcome everybody to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio. Today is Monday, September the 6th, 2021. And I hope you're having a restful Labor Day. I know it's supposed to be for resting from labor, and some people are still having to work. But we hope that you're having a good day. Give Michael just a few moments to get dialed in, and invite you to go to our website, which is www.whyagain.org, and click on the Start Here button or the bullseye in the middle of the page. Both of those take you to the same place, and you'll find the tools, MP3s of radio shows where we've walked people through doing a worksheet. You'll find all of the worksheets for all of the workshops online. You can access the worksheet to actually fill it in online if you don't want to print them out. And you've always got the app on your phone. So put the tools to work in your life, and you will see a change. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome, everybody. Delighted that you're here to join with us in carrying forward this conversation to one more level, one more time, as we move forward in understanding each of the tools that comes out of our original work with the first century Aramaic teachings of the man named Yeshua. And the more I work with those teachings, the more the precision and the brilliance of them is just amazing. The practical application, amazing. And one of the things, and we've talked over the last several weeks, is that we were looking at what we were going to do with the mind shifters and still point breathing work. And so what we've decided to do, we finally kind of, after talking to a few folks and thinking about it, decided that we're going to create a monthly online membership for mind shifters and still point breathing. So we'll be doing a monthly Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing workshop the second Saturday of every month from 10 till 5 o'clock Eastern Time. We're going to include several videos with that. And then the Wednesday following that second Saturday, and we're not saying the second Wednesday because it won't always fall that way with the way the calendar goes. So the second Saturday of every month, regularly now, for eternity, we're going to do a Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing workshop. And then the following Wednesday, from 7 till 9 Eastern Time, we'll do a question-answer follow-up session to process that and assist people just in building the skill of using both the tools of Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing. And our first workshop will start on the, let's see, what date is it, Jeannie? October the 9th, I believe it is. Will be our first, or our next Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing workshop on Zoom.
Yes.
So if you want to be part of that, October 9th, we'll be on. It'll be from 10 to 5 Eastern Time. And then the following Wednesday, which will be October the 13th, from 7 till 9 p.m., we'll do a Zoom session geared to do question and answer and just enhancing the understanding and practice of the tools. There will be a couple of bonus things that come. There are going to be 3 different levels of participation. You can do it monthly, just, one time up type of thing. And it's going to include these bonus videos, even if you do just that one-time session. It'll include the Mind Shifters and Introduction to Still Point Breathing video out of our normal catalog. That's normally a $40 video. It will include an introduction to Mind Shifters and selecting Mind Shifters, so that prior to the intensive, which we found that when we start out on Friday night, when we have done that in the past, we've done, like the last session, we did a Friday night and all day Saturday. And we found that we really could have set the Friday night up so that people could do that on their own. Get your Mind Shifter. We've created a video that instructs on the whole body of how and what the Mind Shifter is, how it works, And so we're going to set it up so that people can select it. We'll be sending people, when they register, those 2 videos. And you'll also get a video of your actual workshop, or each workshop that you do. If you do it just once, the cost will be $150. If you decide to do, we're going to have 3 levels. So there's a month membership, and then there'll be a 3-month membership. So the 3-month membership will be 3 sessions, and you can take those 3 sessions anytime. They don't have to be consecutive. You could do one in October and then do another one in January and then another one in March, however that works. And the 3 sessions will be $350. So that'll be 3 Saturday all-day workshops and then a Wednesday that follows up. And or you can do an annual membership of 12 months of sessions. And that 12 months will be $100 a month, so it'll be $1,200 for the year. And or if you choose to pay in advance, it'll be $900 to do that. And of course, we can always make interest-free financial arrangements if somebody has a challenge in doing that. So we'll have the video. It's an hour and 12 minutes of the introduction, of Mind Shifters, the introduction to still point breathing. There'll be the Mind Shifters Zoom class from August of 2021, and that will mean that what we have done in the past, the Friday night, will be self-study, and then of course the radio show is always here 5 days a week to support people and questions and answers, so that you get as much as you can of that. And then we're going to create something new for those who are familiar with it, and for those who aren't, it'll take some time to build the brain cells for it. But you'll remember that on Friday night, when we do the Mind Shifters and still point breathing, we have people select a pair of numbers, and those numbers point to what mind shifter they'll be using to work for stirring things up for that session on Saturday. And so in that, we have 3 sections of mind shifters. And if you've participated before, in fact, we could do it right now. Let's get people to go ahead and pick 2 numbers if you'd like. We'll make this part of the show. We're going to invite you to pick 2 numbers, one from 1 to 3. So first number that pops into your head, 1, 2, or 3. Write that one down. And the second number from 1 to 13. And Jeannie has a piece of paper with 39 mind shifters on it, divided into 3 parts. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. 13 mind shifters in each. So the 2 numbers that you selected will point to which mind shifter we're going to invite you to work with. So that will be part of the workshop. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create an expanding mind shifters database. So each month, we're going to add another section of mind shifters. So the first workshop that you do will be 39 mind shifters, and then the next month we'll actually add a whole new section with another 13 different mind shifters. And the next month we'll add another section with a different 13 mind shifters, and the next month and the next month and so forth. So you'll have this expanding. Back when I had a practice in South Florida, this goes back 30 years ago, I had a practice where I worked 3 days a week with people doing mind shifters and still point breathing and doing private sessions, and I always kept a record of all of those mind shifters, so I have hundreds of them. And so we're going to organize those into groups and add 13 new ones each month to that. So when you participate in the mind shifters and still point breathing workshop, you will get that set of mind shifters for that particular month, whatever it happens to be, to just expand things and make more and more available. And if you're interested, again, there's 3 levels of participation. The first workshop is going to be October the 9th, or the next workshop will be October the 9th. We're just in the process of finishing off a flyer and, doing all the details on that. And so we'll be sending that out in our newsletter. We'll send a newsletter out focused on this new membership process that we're doing with Heartland Aramaic Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing. So if you're interested in that, if you're not on our mailing list, you can go to our website, whyagain.org. And down at the bottom of the page, you'll see a link that says get on our mailing list. Click that. And give us your information, and it'll keep you posted on what's happening with the tools. So that's just one more of the products that we're adding to our list of what you can do to gather support for using these tools. And I'm sure that at some point we'll be adding things to the membership. I don't know. This is a starting point. We're still in the process of reinventing and recreating how we do our work, since we've pretty much completed 40 years of on the road travel, and now we're doing everything online. So we're just, creating as we go along. How can we invent something that will make this more functional in terms of supporting people? So there'll be 2 live interaction Zoom sessions, the second Saturday and the following Wednesday of each month, off into the future if you want to join us. And beyond that, our book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? If you haven't been joining us, we've been reading from the book, doing just a couple of paragraphs per day on the radio show, so that over the period of a year, we'll have gone through the whole book. If you haven't read it, it's a free read. You can buy it, but you can also read it free, as with most of our products. So if you want to buy a copy of the book, we don't have it for sale ourselves because the book is out of print. But fortunately, when we had several, I don't even know how many tens of thousands that went out back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there's still lots of them around. And if you go to eBay or Amazon, they've always got used ones for sale. So you can buy them there. Or you can go to our website, whyagain.org, and you can download the book free in any one of, 7 or 8 or 9 different languages, whatever the number is these days. Our latest language that was added was Dutch, and that was kind of interesting. It's probably, almost a year and a half ago now, Jeannie, that we were doing the show, and she got an email in the middle of the show, and it's somebody from Holland said, "Hey, I got a hold of your book and read it online and started doing those worksheets, changed my life. And so here's my contribution to your work. I've translated the book into Dutch." And there it was. So, and if you happen to speak a language that we do not already have a translation of for the book, and you would like to make it available to people who speak your language, if you translate it, we'll put it on our website free, and anybody in the world that speaks that language will have access to Why Is This Happening to Me Again. And it's a story. It's a made-up story. It's not about an individual that exists, but it is a composite individual. This character, Richard, is this recalcitrant kind of guy that doesn't want to hear anything I've got to say about anything, but, he's going through his 3rd divorce, and somebody suggested he stop at Heartland and talk to me, that there might be some resolution for him. So we're, well past the halfway point in the book and our conversation with this character, Richard. And we're on the chapter, The Body Has a Mind of Its Own, and we've been talking about the file folder effect. And he's realizing how some of the messages that were given to him as a child have been running his life. And so we've covered that idea of the file folder effect. And then I make the request of him or speak about, somebody being yelled at, punished, about how incompetent they are. And especially in this case, messages that life tends to give people in our puritanical insanity, a message like, sex is dirty, save it for the one you love. And so he's looked at how that's applied in his relationships and how there's pretty much been bedlam in his life. And he says to me, as I talk about, what would be the effect of this message given to a small child, sex is dirty, save it for the one you love. And he offers, it's going to be crazy. And he admits it's just like his marriages have been crazy. He's been through 3 of them. He says it's bedlam, it's insane, divorce, pain, hatred, revenge, being at war. They wept in grief and rage. I sat quietly and held the space of love as he processed through some pretty profound emotions. And the key thought that's offered in the book at this point is, the more we are able to presence love for each other, the faster our healing process proceeds. I admired his courage in facing these buried issues. I thought about how so many of us have been up against a wall have to be up against the wall before willing to confront ourselves. I suspect that is because we've been trained to numb our pain to the point where it takes a major crisis to break through our drugged state and get our attention. And of course, we are probably the most drugged population the world has ever seen. Between the legal and illegal drugs, the alcohol, every street corner you can go in and buy drugs in America. It's called coffee, caffeine. Sugar has been integrated into virtually every food that's offered commercially. Commercial foods have basically had most of the nutrition removed and sold to the pig farmers, so the food itself becomes a drug. And then you just have to listen to one newscast, I don't care what station you tune to, and listen through one newscast to look at how many people are drugging themselves with rage. And then, back a couple of years ago, we did a workshop in a high security prison up in Ionia, Michigan. And these were guys that were in this prison for 25 years to life. It was a high security prison where they brought all of the worst prisoners from the state of Michigan to this one facility. And we started out and did a couple of classes, and then one of our teacher up there, two teachers actually, Michelle being one of them, Rex, went in and carried on with a study group. And they were getting ready to go in and do laws of living. And the tradition, that course was originally designed for the prison system, and the tradition was that the inmates always had to pay for it, had to be invested, because if people don't invest when they start doing process work, it's too easy for them to turn tail and run and blame somebody else, drug themselves with rage and go in the other direction. So it was set up so that over a period of 8 weeks during the support group, the inmates who wanted to do laws of living, their investment to get into the class free was to do 5 worksheets a day. Now, this is a group of men who are locked in their cells 23 of 24 hours. 1 hour a day, they get to go out in the yard and exercise. If they perhaps had a job in the commissary or the laundry or something, they might have another couple of hours. But otherwise, they're locked in their cells 23 of 24 hours by themselves. And when it came time for laws of living to start, every one of them had the same reason why they hadn't completed the 5 worksheets a day for 40 days. And I'd offer it was because they were drugging themselves. And the drug was, believe it or not, 23 hours locked in a cell. Every one of them, to a man, had the same excuse. I was too busy. Now, I talked to lots of people who use these tools, and it's really interesting how when the stress is up and the chips are down and they're in the middle of their muddle and they know they need to do some healing work, and sometimes they'll call the specialist, well, how many worksheets have you done on that? Oh, well, I actually hadn't thought of doing any on that. Well, why not? Well, I've been too busy. We're the most drugged society that's ever been on the planet. And so we numb our pain, and it's time for us to wake up. At this point, we're talking to Richard about it's safe to feel what comes up and face the issues, and that was how his healing would happen. Richard expressed his relief and confided that he had not felt emotions so deeply since he was a child. His face took on a radiance as soon as the sorrow it had reflected earlier ebbed away. We extended our example. This is the 6 of 30, say with the one you love example. And you watch how people have such a sexual attraction, and yet because of the conflicting, pained information and experiences they have locked away, unwilling to face them, they move farther and farther away from this gift of intimacy that was given to us. So we extended our example as we wondered what a couple living in a cabin in the woods would go through in adjusting to each other. Richard shared, from my experience with intimate relationships, even that would be difficult. I suggested that we take a look at the same couple in the middle of New York City, dealing with each other and the complexities of their interactions. Now, compound all of that by adding the foul folder effect, which is exaggerated by all the stimulation of a metropolis. In the city, their senses are bombarded by movies, television, masses of people, magazines, newspapers, billboards, advertising in stores and on taxi cabs and buses. These media continuously impale each spouse's mind with both subliminal and overt messages of fear, guilt, sex, violence, hatred, drug and alcohol use, and abuse. If their minds contain highly charged emotional realities connected to any of these issues, and they're continuously being resonated into activity, how sane can they be? Is it any wonder people turn to drugs and alcohol to cope? And of course, even sex itself can become a drug. The compulsive use we define in this work, a drug is the compulsive use of any person, place, circumstance, substance, activity, or event in order to hide our highest guidance from ourselves, and or in order to refrain from feeling what's real and what's going on within us. Now, you just think about the foul folder effect. Example I've used, don't think about the color of your car. What moves in you when I say don't think about the color of your car, but the color of your car? So, think about somebody in this city, and it's not hard to figure out why our divorce rate's well over 50%. When you think about that foul folder effect, so here are the movies, the television. Of course, back then, now, we didn't have social media when I wrote this book the way we do today. But you look at all the stimulation from each of these sources: billboards, advertising, newspapers, magazines, masses of people, television, stores. I mean, you walk into a store and the subliminal, sexual, suggestive advertising is just outrageous, impaling the mind. And of course, there's so many messages that people never hear or see, but their mind, the unconscious, hears them and sees them, and resonance happens as a result of it. When do we wake up? When do we realize what's going on? And how do we recover our sensibilities and our sensitivity? I would offer there's this awesome set of tools that's meant to walk us through that process. The book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? You go to our website, free, download it, give it a read. Read it twice, read it 3 times, read it 10 times. The 10th reading, you'll read the book and you'll go, oh my God, I feel like I've never read this book before. And then dig out the worksheet. If you're not using the worksheet, go to our website, whyagain.org, the upper left-hand corner. There's a Start Here button. Click the Start Here button. Start going through the links. You can download the worksheet on your computer, print it off so you've got written worksheets to do. You can go to your app store on your phone, type in the words Heartland, Heartland, one word, Heartland, Aramaic, Aramaic, forgiveness, and you'll be looking at the world's only forgiveness app. There's one. Created, thank you, Miss Jeannie, by the genius mind of Miss Jeannie. And it's just, you can sit at home, you can be on the bus, you can be in your car and doing, of course not driving, but doing the forgiveness process right there. You know, a whole lot more productive use of time than the distractions that the culture gives us. So again, the word forgive having nothing to do with letting anybody else off the hook, never forgive anyone for anything, but simply a tool with which you can go inside yourself if you're in pain, if you're in trauma, if you're in turmoil, and remove the root of the pain, the trauma, and the turmoil. So delighted that you're honored to be here with us. We're honored to have you here with us. I misspoke there. And hopefully you're honored to be here too. And Miss Jeannie, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
It is all quiet. And I am not sure if we completed Friday with Doug or if he's on with us. Press 1 if we need to continue.
We could certainly do that if that's appropriate.
He has not pressed
so Doug,
1, but I'm going to turn on his mic and just see.
Are you out there in listener land, Doug? How are
there
you, young man?
I am here in listener land, yes.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm some aspects of me I would hope might be slightly better. I don't know. Still pretty darn weak.
Are you having some physiological challenges?
Oh my gosh, yes. I've been sick for 8 days.
Ouch.
Yeah, very sick. And in the beginning, I mean, I could clearly, the pain point I feel over the pain that needs to come up, and it's just kind of surfacing and rolling forward. I certainly may have been playing a pivotal role in my physical condition, but I may have some virus, or who knows what I have. I don't know what I have. I know that I have something.
Are you thinking that you've maybe gotten COVID?
Could be.
Are you doing any kind of treatment, Doug? If you not doing any kind of treatment and you think you might have COVID, I'd strongly urge you to get on some form of treatment instantly.
I've been following the protocol for the frontline doctors. Vitamin C, biocucerin, ivermectin,
D3,
etc.
Zinc.
D3, yeah.
You're doing all those things, yeah.
I've been doing all that.
I have a friend that was diagnosed just last week. She was getting into a pretty sick state pretty quickly, and she went in that night. The day she got tested and confirmed that she had it, and she went to the hospital. They kind of were resistant, but she finally got them to give her monoclonal antibodies, and she said within 15 minutes of the IV moving, she was feeling better, and literally 36 hours later, she was back to total normal, feeling good, full energy back. So if that's a possibility for you, you might want to look at getting tested and find out if that's what's going on. And those monoclonal antibodies seem to be pretty powerful. But in the meantime, we'll certainly hold the space for you. That's a tough one if that's what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know if it is or not, because I'm pretty confident that I had it before, although I've never had a positive test. Because by the time I'm tested, I've been on ivermectin already for some time, and I don't think that, it shows up. I was thinking,
right.
I am basically looking at, just this morning, that suggestion was also made to me. So I was going to look into that possibility. I've got to be able to be tested positive for it, and I don't know if that's going to be happening at this point, but maybe, I don't.
Well, we'll hold the space. The best understanding I have is as fast as you can get treatment. Apparently a lot of people are being told, well, you've got it, go home and see how you do, and if you have trouble, get back with your doctor. And by the time they get to the hospital, it's getting to the point of being a little on the late side, that really, like the first days, it's really urgent. And by the way, I just want to put out, I assume you're using a human prescription ivermectin, but for anybody who happens to be listening, there's a lot of talk about using ivermectin out of the farm store, because it's a common dewormer for horses, and people are using horse dosages of ivermectin and going to poison control. And there's a little bit of mislead there in the media world, using that word ivermectin and connecting it with a horse dewormer, where it's actually also for a long time, it's a drug that's been used successfully for several different disorders in humans, but of course a human prescription, not out of the farm store. So just to be clear on that for anybody who happens to be listening.
Sure. So, what I was identifying for myself this morning, I mean, generally, Michael, I've just been so sort of deeply engaged, and the pain has felt so strong relative to my strength. It's like the non-being content coming up, which is why in our last conversation, it was helpful when you talked about just holding love present, letting love be there, because just the willingness and feeling and having, all this come forward was pretty overwhelming for me, pretty overwhelming to my body. And
I hear you.
Just holding love present and letting that work on the content was a helpful thought from our last conversation. And what I could identify clearly this morning is just, the pivotal thought, that I have is that that it's just only right that, or let's see, how do I language this? The desire I have, the goal I have, is that we not give up on this relationship, that she and I not give up, that she not give up. I don't want to give up, but that we don't give it up.
Right.
And I think that's...
So Doug, notice your speech. And remember the idea from Laws of Living of regulatory speech, that the body of a sentence determines what we're creating, whether we're in the acceptance or rejection of the body of it. So notice that 3 times within 3 sentences, the body of the sentence is give up. And you might want to look at your focus in the idea of avoiding giving up, which means there's a lot of creative energy going into supporting giving up. What is it you really want there? Well, what if you went to constructive language about what you really want to create? What would it be?
I want continued, loving, determined intention towards moving forward in this relationship until we are successful. That's what I want.
I'm with you. I hold the space for that. I hear that loud and clear, and I join with that thought rather than the, don't want to give up, because energetically, and of course that points to, and there I would suggest you do some worksheets around this giving up idea, and clean out whatever's in your file that keeps prompting that to come into the conversation, so that you've just got total focus and total clarity on creating what I hear as wholeness and well-being in and through this relationship.
Right.
Yeah. So we're here holding the space.
Okay. Well, maybe that's just fine. I'll just settle into that and
We're with you, and it sounds like your lungs are sounding pretty good and pretty clear.
Well, they're slightly better than they were maybe yesterday. Although you can see that it still comes up with a cough from time to time. But if I stay extremely calm, I keep my emotions as equanimous as possible, and I basically minimize my exertion, I'm all right.
Yeah. Well, we hold a space for total, complete healing, and if what your body needs to do is create antibodies to deal with this, that you're able to do it, you're empowered to do it, and you come out strong and well and whole on the other side of it.
Very good, Michael.
Yeah. All right, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that support and holding, the clarity of just holding the thought for having success.
Awesome.
Okay. Have a good one.
Well, we're with you, sir.
All right. Very good.
Okay. Take care. Blessings.
Blessings.
And we have a hand up, and I believe it is Miss Susan Bingham, 610. You're on the air.
Oh, sweet.
Hey. Hi. Yeah. Thanks.
Hey there, young lady.
The other day, Michael. Yeah. So Michael encouraged me to ask you something that I've been wanting to ask Jeannie, and that is to have you talk a little bit about your Women Healing Women activities, what you do, and so forth. Would you be willing to talk about that?
Sure. I actually haven't got anything scheduled, and it's been it was 2017, the last women's intensive that I did, but I kind of play it by ear.
Is that
I start
long ago,
out,
sweetie?
and it has been because Mom attended
My
it.
goodness.
It was the one I did in Abingdon, and
that's right.
Mom attended that one. And then after that, then she passed. I don't think that we did one in Oak Island after that. It would have been 2018 then, but we were back here, and I may have done one in 2018, but we were back here then in August of 2018.
Right. I think we did one in Oak Island in the winter of 2018 before we came back here. That was that was the last one. That was the one where you really worked with several women who'd had miscarriages and abortions, and you did some really powerful work with healing in that arena. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I kind of go along the lines of Michael's 9-day why again, as far as the topics. I definitely cover the forgiveness work and talk about, how it's all tied together. I do a few things differently in directing more towards women and women's issues. And actually the way that I even got started doing women's intensives was during an intensive that we were doing in Palm Coast, and the topic came up of you know, women's body functions and menstrual periods and having babies and sexual issues and things like that. And I was talking, just sharing, you know, in the group. And afterwards, one of the ladies came up and she said, you know, a lot of us would like to talk about that, but we're not as brave as you are to talk in a mixed company. You should do a women's group. And she just kept on me, and so I finally agreed. And she went to the point of she had bought a house, she hadn't furnished it yet, in Florida, and it was like, you know, you can do it in my house. You know, we have plenty of room. We can put, you know, blow-up beds. I'll get tables and all the kitchen stuff and everything. And so, you know, she just kind of pushed me into going forward with it. And I actually had 13 women at that first intensive. And I just kind of let it flow in the energy of it. And when we start talking about things and you know, I will share my experience. You know, I got married when I was 16, and I stayed in that marriage for 3 years and was physically abused and created a lot of physical damage, you know, internal injuries and things. But so I will share that, and then that sometimes gets women talking, and they'll share what they've gone through, and you know, I just go from there and allow the energy to move, and whether they need to process, you know, and deal with stuff. You know, it was like 40 years since my experience before I finally, you know, sat down and started facing it. And you know, it kind of put it in my mind that, you know, I don't have to ever see him again or look at him again or whatever. I can just pretend like it didn't happen. And of course, you can't do that. It constantly comes up in your life. And so we did one ceremony, and this is the one that Michael was talking about. There were actually in this one intensive we did at Oak Island, there were 2 women who had had multiple abortions. There were a couple of women who had had miscarriages, and there was even one who had had a child that was born and then later died. But all of them were losses. And, you know, I had had a miscarriage and actually had 2. But the first one was in that marriage where the abuse was. And then the second one was I was pregnant with twins and lost a girl, and my son is the survivor of that pregnancy. And so I would share things like that, and it just kind of opened the floor for women to process things that, you know, they had experienced or been through, whether it was voluntary or involuntary, and yet they had pushed it down and hadn't faced or dealt with the emotional part of it. I mean, even if it was a voluntary abortion, there was still an emotional aspect of losing a child that they hadn't dealt with. And so I had everybody write letters to the baby. I said, you know, if it had a name, address it to, you know, by its name. And I said, if you lost it early, you know, and it wasn't, you didn't even know its sex or anything, I said, give it a name and write the letter to it and explain to the child what happened, or, you know, if it was an abortion, you know, what state of mind were you in, what was going on, why did you choose, you know, that. And I said, just pour your heart out in that letter. And I said, you don't have to share it. Later, some of them did share it. But then that evening, we went down to the beach, and we set all of the letters on fire. And each woman had a bowl with her letter in it. And so when she set it on fire, she had a bowl of ashes. And so then we would take turns going to the edge of the water and just throwing the ashes out into the water and letting it go. And after everybody had done that, this huge flock of pelicans just came swooping down right above where we were throwing the ashes out. I mean, it was just kind of like, you know, you could almost metaphorically see, you know, spirit just took all that pain and just flew away with it. And so we did things like that. There was, you know, some women that, you know, and this may be TMI for some people, but they would have problems sexually. And so we may actually discuss, you know, how to get to the point of orgasm. And, you know, I mean, just we talk about everything. It's just all women. And so they're in a safe space and open enough to be able to talk about that. And there was this one lady that she was so introverted and pulled in and burdened down with, whatever was going on for her. And, you could see it in her when she arrived at the intensive. She was just like she had a dark cloud over her. And when she left, she was bouncing and smiling. And it was just a few months later that she got married. And it's like such total changes, in their lives. And changes in my life. So
fantastic.
And we do cover, like I said, the basics of, the forgiveness work and codependency. And if you go to, I was actually trying to multitask here. If you go to my website, which you can also reach from the Why Again site, you can scroll down and there is a link to, I thought there was. I'm not seeing it right now. But anyway, it's Women Healing Women, or Healing the Whole Woman. And if you go to that, there is a link over on the left-hand side that talks about, what's covered in a 4-day intensive. And in that one, I cover the Why Is This Happening to Me Again, the Healing Through Relationships, Codependence, Power Person, and the Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing. And in the 8-day, in addition to those, I cover the Purpose, Personal Power and Commitment, Empowered to Heal, and do the hands-on energy work, and then the Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing. And responsibility communication. So I cover a lot of the same topics. I present in my own way. You'll hear some of the same things, and you'll say, oh, she's quoting Michael, But
why not?
Yeah, actually, absolutely. No need to reinvent the wheel. And,
right. I do that too. I quote Michael.
But there's testimonials there on my page too of women who have attended the women's intensives and what they have to say about it. And so I'm pleased, and I hope if things kind of settle a little bit. Actually, I told Michael yesterday I started writing in my book again. I got another chapter complete, and so
good.
But I'm hoping that perhaps if not this fall, because Michael's actually talking about doing the Laws of Living or the teacher's training, one of those. So maybe in the spring I will do a Zoom women's intensive online.
Wow. Jeannie,
but yeah,
remember.
Go to healingthewholewoman.org, and there's a lot of information out there.
Oh, okay. Healingthewholewoman.org. Let me write that down. Now, I remember you telling us, it must have been several years ago, you told us some of what you said this time, but now it's in more detail, and I'm getting a sharper picture of what you did. And all I can think of is, here I am. I'm 77 years old. And I am dealing with, it's as if things go around and around and around in circles. And maybe it's partly because I have time now to look back, and it may be what old people do. Regulatory speech, right, Michael? I shouldn't call myself old, but...
Right, and there is a book about that. I think it's called Why Is This Happening to Me Again?
Right.
Or some people actually title it, Why Am I Doing This to Myself Again?
Oh, right. But it's amazing how thoughts about being older, being female and older, losing some of the things that I felt made me valuable and interesting, like looking good, things like that go away.
Whose
maybe I'm not even
that?
supposed to. Mine.
I think you're beautiful, Susan. And when you were doing the yoga and things during the first intensive, I was just so amazed. I don't know how many times I told Michael, I said, look at her body and how flexible she is and how she can move. I should have told you that instead of telling Michael that, but you're awesome.
Thank you,
and I would have never guessed your age.
Oh, well, I had we've been...
Excuse me. I'm going to take the progress break in here. What was that little, pushing away that compliment that I just heard? Did you hear that?
Well, I did, and I was going to tell you a story which explains the groan. And I know there may not be much time about that, and it's sort of deflecting away from Jeannie, and so I'm going to come back to Jeannie and think, I would love to be able to have an intensive like that about everything you said, and also include being older and what that means and where we stand and so forth, and maybe that's a whole other thing.
Actually, one thing that just kind of popped into my head, and this is something I also share in the women's intensive. You know, before I knew that you could do anything else with your body, I mean, I had like fibroid tumors and cysts and endometriosis and all this other. So in 1996, I had a total complete hysterectomy. I mean, they took everything. And
wow.
I was at first just on, you know, the hormones, synthetic hormones that the doctor prescribes. After I met Michael in 2003, it was probably 2004 that I switched over to bioidentical hormones. If your doctor will test your hormone levels, and you can find a compounding pharmacy, they can adjust and make, like I take a progesterone by mouth at night because it also helps sleep. So if you're not sleeping well,
I need
that's something else. Yeah, so it's a progesterone tablet, and I think it's 100 milligrams or micrograms or something. Anyway, I take 3 of them in the evening before I go to bed, so it helps sleep. And then the other, the estrogen and the testosterone, is in a cream that I put on my arms or my legs or whatever, and it's just like a tiny, tiny amount that I put on every day. And you just rub, you know, if you put it on your arms, you rub your arms together or rub it on your thighs or whatever. And then I go back every 6 months, and they retest my hormones again and make sure that they're level. And, I mean, I have a better level of hormones right now than I had when I was probably 30. And along with that goes other things like, you know, the way you feel sexually and, you know, your activity. And it just impacts a lot of things. And actually one time, this was back when we had gone to Costa Rica, and we came back, and I'd had blood work done, and it was like my cholesterol was high, my sugar was high, you know, everything was like out of whack. And I'm thankful I've got such an awesome doctor, because he said, well, what it is your hormones are low. He said, we'll get those back up. He said, it will kick in your metabolism, which will take care of the sugar, take care of the cholesterol. Everything will get back in place. He said, so what we need to do is balance your hormones. Instead of saying, okay, you need to take this cholesterol drug, or you need to take this, you know, high sugar drug, or, you know, whatever. He looked at it that it was the hormones that kicked in everything else. And, you know, that impacts everything from your sleep to the, you know, sexual activity to, you know, your skin. I mean, everything is impacted by that. So if you can get your doctor to test your blood on your hormone levels, and you need all three, you know, back before I got this doctor, you know, they just gave me estrogen tablets when I had a hysterectomy. And it's like, you need to have testosterone and progesterone too. You have to have all of them. And so, you know, I would direct you there first, and then find a good compounding pharmacy to create what the doctor prescribes, and then they test you every 6 months to make sure you're, you know, sometimes my testosterone will be up, they'll lower that portion, you know, or something like that. So
and
I think that's very
MD
important.
Do this? Will a regular MD do this, or will a regular MD?
They'll just tell him to order the blood work to test your estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone, and that you want to get a bioidentical. Yeah.
Yeah, your regular MD, generally speaking, won't do that. It's just not, you know, it's just not in their purview. But find yourself a naturally oriented, enlightened medical doctor, and you're going to see transformation like you can't imagine.
I know when. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I don't think any woman needs to, you know, they talk about menopause and it's natural, and, you know, to go through all this, and I think if your hormone levels, you know, and they can balance them, and it's bioidentical, so it's not, you know, the synthetic, you know, imitation, you know, this imitates the estrogen or this imitates that, but it's actual pure chemicals, you know, and that was another thing that I checked with the pharmacy too, to make sure that the compounding that they did, that they weren't ordering something from, you know, China or Guatemala or somewhere else, that they knew their sources. And so I think that the first and foremost is hormone levels. I mean, that kicks in your emotions and everything else. So getting those in balance is really important.
Well, that's so good. Yeah, thanks. That is very good. I've taken notes, and I do have a medical doctor friend who left her medical profession and became a functional medicine person and an acupuncturist, and she does tapping, and that's the one
she probably would do that then.
Worksheet on. Yeah, then she would. She could order those things too. She's still got her medical license. Cool. That's
sounds
very
like the perfect
helpful.
person.
Yeah. Oh, thanks a lot. Very helpful.
Yeah.
No, the thing that happened was we're making these videos for our church services, which are now back on Zoom only. In Pennsylvania, we've been shut down because numbers are up with COVID. And we made the video, and it popped up on the Sunday service. And I was just, I didn't like what I saw. I really didn't like what I saw. This is a big thing. I look like a crabby, tense, colorless lady. There you go. That's the truth of the moment. That's my ego truth. And so,
well, I'm here to affirm you, young lady. I'm here to affirm you 2,000%. That's a lie.
Well,
you're looking into a perceptual construct where you've been fed so much crap about yourself, my dear, that it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I
think a lot of us, and this is for you, Jeannie, I think a lot of us women could use a little section of your worksheet on this very thing, on your workshop, if you do it. And if you do it, I'm in. So hurry up and do it.
And in the women's intensive, if you go to the website under where all the worksheets are, I use the one that's called abbreviated, and that's why I've got both the 7-step that Michael uses all the time and the abbreviated version in the app. I use the abbreviated version in the women's workshop, and one of the main things that I point out when I'm doing that, and the part that I really like on that worksheet, is that when you state your goal, then there's a second section. It's like, so I want, the goal that I have is this so that I can. And it has another blank.
Yeah.
And that second one is that's the underlying goal. I want them to treat me nice so I can feel, perfected or something, or so I can feel safe. Right. And that is actually the goal. The other is a surface goal.
I got it. Yep, Magda put that in. I remember that she put that in, and I thought that's a cool thing to add.
Yeah. I think she said that David actually came up with that, but I attributed it to Magda as well. But I love that part. Yeah.
Thanks. And so, Jeannie, it's womenhealingwomen.org or com or what? Say
Healing
again?
the Whole Woman. I tried to get Women Healing Women. Yeah, and I couldn't get, somebody else had the Women Healing Women already trademarked. So my website is actually Healing the Whole Woman.
.org. Okay, thank you so much.
And like I said, there's pages of testimonials of people that have attended or women who have attended the women's workshop, and So thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you too. I've been wanting to do that, but I thought, this is Michael's thing, and Jeannie does what she does, and maybe I shouldn't be messing around with this.
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
Good questions, and this isn't my show. This is our show.
Yes. You made that clear when you called, Michael. That was very nice.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, thank you for asking those questions, and maybe that will, open the space for more of the ladies who are participating in the show to ask Jeannie more questions, and let's have more of her input. Her input is always awesome. So, and we're down to we're less than a minute, so the show's going to cut us off. So I was just going to say thank you, Jeannie, and thank you, Susan, and everybody. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings.